Alright, this is a quick video on how to fix the issues with projections between Pathfinder Office and ArcMap. So in Pathfinder Office, one of the things that you have to do is basically tell the system, you've downloaded your data using data transfer. You may have corrected it up. Now you're exporting it, and you need to tell Pathfinder what you're exporting it into. So you pick either your SSF, which is straight off the GPS, or the corrected file, and then set your export folder if you need to change that. Export setup, I typically use shapefiles. Some surveyors will, you can do like a configurable ASCII file, which is just like a coordinates. But let's say we're doing shapefile, go properties, under the coordinate system tab. I mean, you can do a lot of different things. One thing in this position filter is include positions that are uncorrected. I always check that box too. Just make sure you get all your data. I think that's the only kind of the main one. But you want to, let's say you're going to do UTMs. You want to pick that from the drop down. Make sure your coordinate systems are in meters. Generally, elevation is not a big deal because it's not real accurate, so you don't even need to worry about X, Y, Z. So you're going to get an error in ArcMap if you don't have a projection file. So if to save yourself the time in ArcMap from having to find a projection, you want to go to this browse, and if you can work through this, it's a little bit tricky, but in the newer versions of ArcMap, it puts this projection file in kind of this spot where you see it here, app data. So it'd be users, Mitch Brinks, app data, and then as you can see, you just scroll all the way down. The reason there's only two in here is what you have to do in ArcMap is basically establish your favorite. And so if you've never done this before, one of the spots you can do it in is the define projection box. You want to set at least one or more projections, kind of your favorites. So let's say you're going to define a projection. Basically, a define projection just tells ArcMap what the coordinate system is. If you bring in GPS data like we were just working on, without that projection file, it's going to be undefined, and you'd have to define it. To do it the first time, you go to the projected systems. Again, we're in UTMs, NAT 83. If you click on it, right click, it'll say add to favorites, unless it's already there. And then you'll see it here when you go to define a projection again. So when you need to do that in ArcMap first, and then when you come back to this export window here in GPS Pathfinder Office, then you can browse to that projection file, and that'll fix it. And you won't get any errors after that. So basically that is what you need to do. Here's how it should look. Hit OK. If you have other stuff in there, you'll have to overwrite it. That's fine. And there you go. So when you browse and look for that job, basically, or that information, here's what it's going to look like in that export folder. And because you found that Esri projection file, it's going to add the PRJ. If that PRJ is not there, then there's no projection file, and you got to go to ArcMap and define it. That's a simple kind of 101 on how to fix that issue in ArcMap with the GPS Pathfinder Office projections.